Before I even give you my longer review of this new album by Perfume Genius, Glory, I'm going to give you two much quicker reviews. The first one comes from my wife. So the first time, she loves Set My Heart on Fire immediately. It's one of the favorite albums I've reviewed. Part of the reason I like this channel is I not only discover new music myself, but I can share that with my family, and she just loves Perfume Genius. And so she heard this album when I pressed play, and this is her initial reaction. Oh, good. It's not scary and angry. Which, I liked Ugly Season. I did a review of it. But I get her point that, his music is already atmospheric and emotional enough. It doesn't need to be ugly and scary and angry. And as she's been listening to this album over the last week, she just keeps liking it more and more and more and more. So that's it. That's the end of my review. My wife really likes it, and she has really good taste. You can tell. She's married to me. But also, I'll go a little bit further than that. But the thing with Perfume Genius is he's one of these artists who... Some artists, you don't want them writing their own biographies, right? They don't get it. Some artists don't actually... And this is not an insult. Some artists don't really know what they're doing. They just sort of do it. And then some artists are pretty well versed and have a very global sort of macro understanding of the art that they're making. That's Perfume Genius. So this is what he wrote. And he basically just wrote the entire review for me. This whole thing. Quote, I like when things are loud, big, but the sentiment is what some people would think of as softer, more tender. That tension is satisfying to me. Thank you, the end, okay? It's not scary and angry, and it is big and loud with softer, tender sentiments. That tension is what Perfume Genius was going for, and that tension is what he achieved review over. Is my hair in my eye? It is. Okay? I'm all done. Obviously, I'm going to keep going. But I could keep digging up comparisons, making details, historical connections, and all that. But this description of what he was trying to do and his successful execution of this idea is the best review I can give you of the album. The satisfying tension of this album was intentional and was successful. Now, next of all, what's up, Blake Mills? Why all this? Blake Mills, you watching? Probably not. Blake Mills did the Perfume Genius album that I reviewed last week. He produced that. He produced this. He co-produced most of the Lucy Dacus album, which I will get to in the next week, I hope. All right? Okay, he's making the James Ford push. He's trying to put himself in that conversation as one of these super producers who can just run around and do anything and just do awesome stuff. And I think he's really making a great case. And this album, obviously he's worked with Perfume Genius the last couple albums. They just seem to be getting better and better. Very different vibes, very different feeling. And so I just summarized the entire album. Big sounds, muted sentiments, tension. But there is a little more that I'll get into. In particular, the meaning of being with someone. This album feels like it is largely an ode to his husband, who I'm just going to call Mr. Genius, because I don't know, there's not many good albums about good love with difficult people. There's a lot of songs about good love with good people and all that, but this feels like he's really trying to work through what is his relationship with his husband and what does that have to do with his relationship to himself. He seems to be at war with himself, and constantly on the other side of the battlefield, waiting in the tent, is his husband, who's just there waiting for him. And that tension, the tension of knowing that you have somebody who loves you and cares for you when you don't always know how to love and care for yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, that is one of, and NBs, that is one of the greatest possible things you can aspire to, is describing that sentiment. How relatable is it to being open to someone but so hurt that you isolate yourself? And how do you love people the way you should? That's one of the larger themes of this album. I love the cover because it looks like he has just fallen through a window, but there's no broken glass. So it's almost like he jumped up against the window, like a reverse bird situation. It's a bird hits the outside of the window and then dies. This looks like maybe he was trying to jump out, but maybe he's happy here. Maybe he's good here. The complexity of this relationship, and I understand it is a gay marriage, so there's a lot of things that I'm not going to understand as a straight guy. But I'm going to tell you, I don't think I've heard an album about love that I relate to more by any heteros. Okay, as a matter of fact, this album has the second best love song I've ever reviewed, and I'm going to talk about the first one. It's also not a hetero love song. Hey, what can I say? I don't know. But I'll talk about that song when I get to it, okay? Because there's a song, and I'm not joking, there's a song off this new Perfume Genius album where when I listened to it and I thought about how I love my wife and how I wish I loved her better sometimes, I just broke down in tears. And that's powerful. But let's get through the album, okay? Let's just go through it kind of song by song. I'm going to make sure I'm recording here. I'm in my basement. My 2-year-old's taking a nap. 6-month-old's taking a nap. It's all good. Is this an okay setting here in the background? What do you think of that Wonder Woman, huh? Pretty cool. And Silver Surfer back there. Okay, let's talk. Oh, thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who's had a weird weekend. I spent most of the weekend in the hospital. I'm okay, but I had an emergency MRI. So I've had a long time to sit with this album and really think about it. So the opening track is It's a Mirror. All right, that's the song. I press play. Oh, good. It's not scary and angry. Sounds like a kind of 90s song. You know, these layers and layers of guitar and booming bass and his emphatic singing. I don't know. His voice is just so beautiful. He has one of the best voices in music right now. The drums come in with what I swear is a didgeridoo, almost like Tom Petty style, singing in harmony. And this whole idea of it's a mirror down. And this chorus with these droning guitars and cymbals and this quiet little instrumental break, and where the drums get kind of compressed with these box chords, and these just really poetic lyrics all the way throughout. So make sure I didn't mute myself. All the way throughout, the lyrics are like, they're here. They're not on the nose. They're poetically rich. So he says in some interview I read that this is about his self-isolating habits, and this is the way that he expresses that poetically. Can I get off without reliving history and let every echo just sing to itself? Can I move on without knowing specifics while memories hum like hives shaken out? Oh, man. I want a page and a half. I want a page and a half by Friday, okay? Can you write a page and a half about this verse and what it means? This beautiful concept of like memories and echoes and just trying to live in the moment. It seems like he's really struggling to be present. It seems like he's struggling to be present with the people that he cares for. And this mirror represents a kind of a fight against that, against being present. Because it's hard to be present when you're worried about yourself and how you look. At least that's how I read it. Beautiful. The next track is called No Front Teeth. I don't think this is a Blues Brothers reference, but it is difficult to eat corn on the cob with no fucking teeth. This is featuring Aldous Harding, acoustic guitar and kind of a boomy bass drum sound. There's this kind of like compressed boomy sound that Blake Mills often uses. I don't know if it's him or Perfume Genius who does it, but it's just great. Beautiful duet with Aldous Harding, an artist who I don't know that well. Talks about being fine and meaning it. That's interesting. She sort of has a great compliment to his voice. Like they really work super well. And then there's this amazing rocking bit. This album blew my mind with its rocking bits because especially this song, it's like Neil Young with better drumming. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please DM a drummer? Okay? Just look in the credits of whatever music you like. If you've ever liked the drums, just find them on Instagram, okay? Everyone is sending Perfume Genius DMs all the time. Oh, I love you, you saved my life, oh that. Have you heard Tim Carr's drumming on here? Jesus Christ, he's good. He's like technically proficient while also very tasteful. He does things that are memorable but not flashy. Tim Carr, that's the name of the drummer. Did I DM him? I did. I said, the drumming's really good. And he said, thanks. That's all you're going to get out of a drummer, okay? He's not going to write you a long poem all the way back to you. But is there a bass player, studio bass player, or just a bass player in a band, or a rhythm guitarist? You know, listen. And you can reach out to them and let them know. You know, it's hard to be a drummer. Anyways, just amazing. The drumming keeps it together, but the guitars are great. All these dynamics, it's just wonderful. And then they come back to the chorus, and now Perfume Genius is singing super low, and then Aldous is singing super high. Better Days, Nothing Touched Me, Let It Take Everything That I Love. And then I guess Meg Duffy is another musician, and she's playing guitar, and the guitar is just super awesome. And I don't know what this song is about. It's super poetic. No front teeth, where they all used to go, broken apart and shining, no front teeth, but a feeling I know, back where the starting line is. Is this about like not having teeth as a kid? You know, all I ever wanted was my 2 front teeth. Is it about some kind of accident, some kind of altercation? I don't know. I really feel like this album successfully conveys a lot of these emotions that he's trying to convey. This kind of tension that he has between sort of who he is and who he wants to be, but it's really never on the nose. And then, can you please tell me 3 better opening songs? This is just brutal combo, just right into Clean Heart. These rumbly, funky drums. Okay, I almost went George of the Jungle. Don't go full George of the Jungle. As Robert Downey Jr. once told us, never go full George of the Jungle. But it has that kind of rumbling, awesome feeling. What is this production? Blake Mills. Blake Mills is just competing with himself at this point for Producer of the Year. This kind of, that is up until, we'll have to see what James Ford does at Black Country New Road. Pretty good stuff. This kind of like rolling sound. And then what's cool is the lyrics actually match that rumble. Rolling undercurrent. I used to hide out for days, holding every note until it breaks. Constantly the sense of isolation and the need to break out and the need to connect with other people, overcoming his desire to hide, his desire to be inside by himself. And the way the guitar comes so gently. This is like the most straightforward Perfume Genius. Like this is the song that would fit best on Break My Heart Immediately, and I'm just there. And this kind of ooh ooh after Only Dust. There's some like glockenspiel in here. Again, Tim Carr. Everyone who loves Perfume Genius, who loves this album, needs to know that Tim Carr is doing a lot to give this album texture, feel, emotion, virtuosity. It is just great. I'm not on the Tim Carr payroll. I had to look up his name, but he's playing with the bells on the ride cymbal. Beautiful. Just such vulnerability and strength in his voice. I talk about this a fair amount. Nothing is better than somebody who can communicate vulnerability with strength, Because you could be like, I don't feel so good. And you could be like, I feel the best. But if you can communicate like, I don't feel so good. I don't know. There's something about the way that he does it. Time, it makes a clean heart when you're miles away from it all and the dream is gone. This dream of a clean heart, this dream of absolution. Lost Album feels like maybe he feels like he did something wrong. He needs to be forgiven. And it ends with those thumbling, rumbling sounds. Oh, it's a heartbeat. It's a heartbeat. Skye, don't go full Matthew McConaughey in Wolf of Wall Street. His teeth in the movie. I get 1 bad joke per video, and I spent it on that. It's only dust, kicked up and lost, finding an end in itself. I used to spend hours, because my house was filthy growing up. And I was asthmatic, allergic to dust. But I used to love hitting the couch and watching the dust fly up and just land, finding an end in itself. Not good for asthmatics, by the way. Next song is the song, Me and Angel. This is the song that made me cry like a little baby, okay? This piano with slight sustain. The drums are super muted. Not Tim Carr. Now it's Blake Mills, which makes sense. This is a more intimate affair. You don't need the full band. You need just the producer and you need the artist. And his voice is so clear and so nice over these little chords. He looks like me or how I used to be, and that's the one thing I should have known to come down to, but I'm on your side. It's his love for his husband. There's a halo that will always hold its shape. That's the core I'm leaning on. Who am I to keep a smile from her face? If he's an angel, he's an angel. He's talking about his husband, and when he talks about this song in an interview, this is what made me cry, and I'm going to explain it, okay? If I'm in a bad mood, he's going to know. I'll hide it from everyone else, but he'll know. But then when he's sleeping, he looks so sweet. I'm like, wait, I love you. So listen, the amount of times in my life that I see my wife and I feel something very strong or positive about her, I think she looks pretty, or I'm just so happy to be with her. The amount of times that those thoughts come into my head versus leave my mouth, like what happens in between my brain and my mouth? Like I'll just sometimes it'll just get stuck in there, and I'll just be like, "You're pretty." Like I just have to like just get it out there. Like this feeling of like, wait, I love you. Like this difficulty of knowing that you're with a good person, the good person knows you're good and you love each other, but not knowing how to communicate that with someone who knows you so well. I continue the quote. Plus, I can be very disconnected and in my own head. Ah, oh, Mike, did you have to go there? So now when he's singing, "You're an angel," he's an angel, like he's just trying so hard to communicate this love, but he's always disconnected and in his own head. He's always thinking about the next video he's going to be, I'm sorry, that's me. He's always thinking about the next album he's going to be making, or the next dance performance he's going to do. I'll be thinking about people a lot, but not telling them that. Just constantly. Thinking about how much I love people, but not calling them. Sometimes I think I write songs just to be like, this is what I've been thinking about you this whole time. And that's what made me cry. Just because even though I'm a very expressive and loving husband, the amount that I care for and love my wife and the difficulty of our life with our 4 kids and the full-time job and blah, 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 and going to the hospital for an emergency MRI, like there's just no amount that I can actually successfully communicate that love and care. And sometimes I feel like I don't even try. And this is that song of like just saying like, you look great, you're great, just I love you, you know? Anyways, so I put this tied with the other song that made me cry like a baby, Anything by Adrienne Lenker. I don't want to talk about anything, I don't want to talk about anyone, I want to sleep in your car while you're driving, lay on your lap when I'm crying. Oh my God. Again, the sense of vulnerability and love and closeness, to be able to not be driving and just cry on someone's lap. When she wrote that, it was like she was writing directly to me. So there you go. My 2 favorite love songs are about same-sex relationships. And I think that's important because it goes to show what's his face, Lin-Manuel Miranda told us, love is love, love is love, love is love. That's just it. There's no gender in love, right? There's no, yeah, right? Is that too much to say? There's no sex in love. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if I actually believe that, but I said it, and now you can think about it, okay? Next song is called Left for Tomorrow, a little more church-like, kind of a church organ, muted drums, and this great bass line, the drums with the brushes. The bass here, Pat Kelly. Shout out to Pat Kelly. Listen, I used to be kind of a snobby musician who's like, I don't like studio musicians because I like guys like Neil Young who have drummers like Ralph Molina who like low-key can't even play drums. You know, like that used to be the kind of guy I am. I love Ralph Molina. That used to be the kind of guy I am. I used to kind of look down on studio musicians, which is a stupid thing to do because there are people who dedicate themselves to a life of art. And I'm going to look down on them just because they are technically proficient and I am not. So yes, Pat Kelly, not to be confused with the Gentleman of Reggae. A different Pat Kelly is playing this stand-up electric bass, and he just carries this whole song. It's beautiful. Perfume himself, Mr. Hadreas himself, says that he loves the song fades in and fades out. And that's what happens on this back half of the album. It gets a little bit more spacey. It turns out there's actually 2 drummers on the song, which makes sense. Gives you sort of that Grateful Dead 2-drummer feel. When I'm on the plane, I'm terrified of turbulence. But when it's really bad, I'm like, I've been preparing for this. Now it's just happening. That's what he says the song is about. And I just feel like this guy really understands. I feel like we would really understand each other really well if we ever had a conversation. Because, I don't know anything about his personal life. But I can tell you one thing. I'm sorry that at least one of your parents was an alcoholic. Whew, man, that comes through in this music. Next song, maybe I'm wrong. Next song is called Full On. Not related to Robot Chubbies from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. This is the first maybe not amazing song, but it's great. This is my least favorite song on the album, but it's just great. You know, the strings are in this kind of nice arpeggio harp sounds. Has kind of a march feeling, and this is kind of a theme that kind of pops up in his music a lot. And it seems to be, and this is what he said in an interview, like it's basically about So like about being gay for the quarterback, like about being a gay guy and being attracted to men who are not the kind of men who you would actually be in a relationship with, seems to be about like being sort of into like archetypes, which again, it's all so universal, like, Jesus, there's a fair chance my wife is going to watch this. I've never told her this before. I said all those nice things about you, honey. I have at times like had a thing like when I'm watching an American football game and I see the cheerleaders and I'm like, hey, wow. But it's like, me, like, I'm a feminist. I hate the patriarchy. I don't like cheerleaders. That's a ridiculous thing. But like, there's something in there. There's some kind of little reptilian lizard guy back there that sees the cheerleaders and is like, hey, all right, And I don't think it's that different. I think it's actually basically exactly the same, As he said, the specific archetype of masculinity I've been drawn to, disgusted by, but then attracted to. I think you could say the same way anyone might have an attraction to a specific archetype of masculinity or femininity that you could be drawn to or disgusted to. Obviously, there's a whole separate thing when we're talking about same-sex archetypes, because obviously it's a thing you could be, but I really like this song for that way. I think these lyrics are, oh, wow, the heater just went off. Now it sounds better, and you're going to retroactively think the rest of the video sounds like ish. But I enjoy this because I basically get the feeling of him just sort of like watching some hot quarterback. I don't know. Who's the hottest quarterback? Jimmy Garoppolo? Tell me in the comments. And just like reading into the quarterback some kind of sweet sensitivity that probably isn't actually there. And then we get to maybe my favorite song, Capezios. Capezios make dance shoes. I know that because my daughter used to do a little bit of dancing. A little bit, not too much. Not too much ballet. This has his Crimson and Clover style vocal effect of this blustering bass, kind of whining sounds. And once again, we go back to these kinds of archetypes. Now, Jason, I don't think Jason is a quarterback. I think Jason is just kind of a scumbag. Probably like a dude with like a Bass Pro Shop hat. Maybe like a goatee. He's obviously dipping. This album's very Southern, he's a very Southern guy. So like pulling his spit in a jar. So I feel like this Jason character is another one of these male archetypes that he's into, but maybe a little bit more of like a bad boy. But I don't read it as like a typical bad boy, like motorcycle, get your motor running kind of thing. Just sort of like a kind of a scumbag, Which I understand that. But then it gets all mixed up because it seems like it's about a dance class and like there's like a woman there. And in his writing about it, he describes it as being like a threesome where both the woman and him are fantasizing about Jason at the same time in different ways, right? It's a pretty interesting idea, actually. The idea of like being in an imaginary threesome with somebody who you do not have you don't share the same sexuality, but you share the same object of desire. God damn, he's a good author, right? You go ahead. You find me a better book. That is great. That's awesome. And then this, Tim Carr. Look, the drums on here. The jam from 2 minutes and 4 seconds on, he's not playing. He's just throwing in little tiny funky syncopation things, just here and there, here and there, here and there. And it is some of my favorite drumming I've heard. It is just wonderful. Dion, kind of like a Moonlight Sonata style song with like these great slight misplays on the piano. Very meditative. Seems like it's again more male archetypes. So we have the football player. We have the scumbag, and now we have this Dion guy. In a row, the next song kind of bumping beats again, sort of like a Riders on the Storm feeling. And this is like a little story. It's this anxiety creating lyrics. Locked inside a moving car, flopping in the trunk, going through a tunnel, counting every bump. Man, how many? Okay, hey, everyone's different, right? Like in a movie when someone has to go swimming and they hold their breath. Do you like hold your breath to see if you could hold your breath that long as well? Do you have asthma? And like this is how long you can hold your breath? Oh, jeez. Okay, then it works out well. But they always do the thing where people get locked in cars and then they have to count every bump and they turn left, they turn right. And I always get so anxious because I know I would get in there and I'd be like, okay, here I go. Left, right, right, left. It was first one was right. Like I would totally lose it. But it's all about the idea of being kidnapped or being locked in someone's basement and having that lead to great art. And I love this idea, like, do you have to suffer for art? Does this video, do artists have to have a heartache? Do they have to do something crazy? Do they have to go through something? At least it leads to good poetry, as it says in here. And I love this idea because, first of all, this is what's called a romantic ideal. Okay, just in case you don't know. All right. Before the 19th century, really, the concept of what an artist is was a lot different. It was like the dreams of people like Vincent van Gogh were really like became the archetype of artists of like living poor, dying young, being self-destructive, living on the outskirts of society, all that. Used to be, people like Manet, who sort of was before the Impressionists, whereas Van Gogh was after, like he just considered himself a worker. Like he just totally revolutionized all visual depictions everywhere, but he just like went to work, loved his family, came home, whatever, right? I'm simplifying, but there's a point, which is to say that the romantic ideal, romantic as in like living life like as in a novel, can lead to bad life outcomes, and it can lead to bad art too. It's not always a great idea to try to think of your life as some grand romantic things. Sometimes you're just locked in a trunk and it's bad. You don't have to always think about how to make, and I love it. He seems to be almost making fun of himself. This whole thing is so extra, so bizarre. Love it. I love the higher register in the second verse. Then we get to Hanging Out, which would be the most at home with Ugly Season. This is the one that came closest to being angry. Metallic plunking sounds with it sounds like a fretless bass and a thumb piano. It's languid and cool. Birds are out. They're flat on their backs and powered down. My neck, it cracks a million times. My back is a worn out limousine. I heard that. Dancing with Tate in the yard, holding him up by the throat. So this song, I just, it's like about eating his friend. It's like a cannibalism song. I feel like these two songs are connected where he's sort of going into story time. And then we're going to end with the song Glory, which I feel is connected to Me and Angel. This roughly recorded piano, this high ethereal voice with backward sounds. It's basically read like a poem. Loose end, roving stray, guest of body, now in quiet glory, glory, finding shade. Just a beautiful little poem to end the song, end this beautiful album. Listen, I'm going to tell you the truth. I went to go buy this album at the Record Archive in Rochester, New York, but they only ordered 3 copies, and they were all sold out. So I am going to go buy this album, and I'll buy it with the help of my Patreons. I don't have my Patreon sheets because my life is too crazy right now. I'm recording in front of Wonder Woman, okay? Okay, and Silver Surfer, okay? But I did ask for if anyone wants a shout out on this video, and Julian Francisco Plasencia Afandor would like a shout out, Mig Online, and Zach. They all like this album and like Perfume Genius. So thank you all for the support. Tell me, what did you like about this album? What do you think of this backdrop? It's pretty intense. I got a Mekons poster back there. If y'all aren't up on the Mekons, man, they're a good band. They're a super good band. I got Pet Sounds and What's Her Face, St. Vincent. All right. Well, anyways, there's the camera.